Hello and welcome to the Great Womb Awakening, where women across the globe are waking up to the undeniable truth that the female body is the most powerful shamanic tool on the planet. Every woman can utilize the energies of change and expansion at this time to ground a new vision that can serve the next 7 generations and beyond. And women can harness this unprecedented power that really truly lies within their female bodies and unleash that power to create global change at a level never seen on this planet. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute, and we are here today with my dear friend, mentor, teacher, Kaylin Castell. Kaylin is the founder of Venus Alchemy, a profound, life-changing ceremonial journey with the 19 months of the Venus cycle, and the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. In addition to writing monthly celestial timings for nearly 25 years, she enjoys sharing these mysteries through personal readings and teaching both online and in-person events, changing lives and perspectives from the visionary understanding that we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. Kaylin is a Magdalene and divine creation high priestess in the lineage of Nicole Christine, having completed her first priestess process in December of 1995 and her Magdalene priestess process in 97 and her divine creation priestess process in 2008. Venus Alchemy was founded in 2014 as an outgrowth of the request Kaylin fulfilled for Nicole Christine in 2008, asking her to create content so that all priestesses could have a deeper relationship and connection to the Venus cycle as ceremony, and to expand our understanding of how our Venus signature informs our priestess self. So I have known Kaylin for several years and have been very blessed to work with her. And I'm very glad to have her speak on this so juicy topic, the Great Cosmic Womb Awakening, underway from 1962 to 1934. So,
2034.
Excuse me,
Yes.
again?
2034.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're in it.
Yeah, we're in the big circle. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Kathy. It's been so much fun to work with you over the last few years. I just have loved our collaboration and co-creation so much. So I'm delighted to be here. And I just want to begin by inviting everyone to just perhaps even put your hands on your own womb and just feel what that feels like. Feel what the womb has to say to you in this moment, what your own personal womb has to say to you in this moment. And extend your awareness to connect to the cosmic womb, and we'll get a deeper connection with that as we go along. As I do this calling of or invitation of the mysteries to join with us at this time. So connecting with your breath, if you want to close your eyes, and feel this invitation to each of us and to all these energies that we're going to bring forth here. So inviting the lineage of these mysteries, the ancient ones, the greater shamanic council of light, the great shining ones, the sacred order of the magi, the circle of grandmothers, and all of the ancient cultures that have worked with these mysteries throughout time, leaving us there, standing stone circles, pyramids, petroglyph sites, chambered cairns, temple sites, and other ways they tracked the magical link between the earth and sky, letting us know that we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. It is meant to be a living relationship, one that was literally taken away from us and that we now have the opportunity to get back. Yes. We also invite the archetypes of the signs, planets, and stars, the elements, earth, water, fire, and air, our beloved Earth Mother Gaia, the great cosmic womb, and the higher self of each and every person who will watch this video at any time now and in the future. Your higher self, the guardian angels, beings of light, master teachers, and guides that work with you, and the ones that work with me and the ones that work with Kathy to help bring through the information and the insights and the ahas and the practices and the whatever else might be coming through that will be most beneficial and supportive to each and every one of us as we go forward into living our life purpose in ways that are joyful, magical, and fun. It is done, it is so, and we give thanks. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Miss Kaylin, why do you specify these dates, 1962 to 2034, and what in the heck are you going to tell us today?
I'm going to share some slides because visuals are going to be so helpful in answering this question. And so it is 1962 to 2034. And basically what you see here, this is the Milky Way that we see when we look out into space. And sometimes we can see it more as a line this way. Oftentimes we see it up and down. Sometimes we see it off as an angle. But literally it's representative of the womb of our galaxy, the womb of our creation, our where we're living and what we're experiencing. And just as our personal womb gives birth to literal children when properly seated and cared for, this cosmic womb gave birth to our reality. And it's also now in the process of giving birth to a new creation. And I placed Isis in here, this goddess Isis with her outspread wings, because the Egyptians saw her as representing the Milky Way with the outspread wings, which is pretty cool. And then of course, here's the baby in the womb, in the cosmic womb. So just to kind of energize that, because we're going to talk a little bit more about how that's working. So from the cosmic perspective, we have in our galaxy what's known as galactic center. Scientists didn't even know that it existed until the 1950s. They found the black hole, the center of the galaxy. And interestingly, there's a constellation that we call the Archer, others call Sagittarius, but mostly overlaid by Capricorn these days. So that's too confusing for people. So we just say the Archer. And the Archer is literally pointing right at the center of the galaxy. Like X marks the spot, like, oh, really? It's been there all this time. The Archer's been pointing there all this time, and we're just now figuring that out.
Right.
That's so fun, right? So every galaxy has a black hole or a womb literally at its center. And they have measured from the center of our galaxy, they measure all this matter, these particles, these light particles and things that are being sent out from the center of the galaxy. And you can see here in this picture that there's literally light beaming from the center of the galaxy. You also see that there's a dark rift. This is the black hole. This is the center of our galaxy, sometimes called the Great Rift. The Mayans called it the dark rift. It's the cosmic galactic womb where everything has originated from this source that we experience in our reality. So cool. So, as above, so below, as within, so without, as below, so above, all of those things, everything's interconnected, and there's the microcosm of the macrocosm. We have all that going on.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the first part of the question, just to start to get this sense. Literally, also the Mayans called this Hunabku. This is the symbol for Hunabku. And again, you can see the Milky Way and the dark rift. And interestingly, the Hunabku, from the Mayan perspective, means the giver of all movement and measure, meaning it's birthing our galaxy. It's the cosmic womb. It's where everything comes from. And also where we can receive downloads of cosmic information when we're open to receive that. So if we know about this, and we don't actually even have to see it, we can just imagine it and tune ourselves into that, to open to receive that cosmic download. And what's really interesting is that around the equinox, and there's an article I can maybe send you a link to this article that says like what the time frame is, but at the equinox there's certain times of the day when this part of the galaxy is directly overhead and downloads of information come in more easily. And literally psychic people say they get information more easily at that time. They've been able to do tests that show that that's actually true. So cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
So why do we want to be tuned into the cosmic womb, right?
Right.
Now, this is why this is something called the Galactic Alignment. That is the reason we know that there's a great cosmic womb awakening that's happening.
Okay.
And so basically here, this purple line you see is the plane of our galaxy, and it's surrounded by that dark band of the Milky Way. So that's the plane that we look at, and when we look out into space, we see that plane. And the plane of our solar system, or the path the planets follow, the path of the sun, also known as the ecliptic, and those two planes intersect and create a cross. So we call that the galactic cross. Actually does it in two places, one at the center of the galaxy and one at the opposite or the edge of the galaxy. So there's been a lot of research that has been done, particularly John Major Jenkins. He wrote a book called Galactic Alignment back in the 90s, I think it was. And he was researching this quite a lot. And he, right before he published his book, he saw an article that was written by Daniel DeMario, who is the one who started seeing this galactic alignment, and literally contacted a man named John Muse, who was an astronomer, and said, when is the sun exactly on the galactic cross? And he did a calculation, and he wrote a book about it, John Muse did, and found that the exact center point of that was in 1998. Wow. So John Major Jenkins included that information in his book. And so if we think about how this is showing up, we're not really that far from the center point. It's like, what, 22 years ago. So, and he also looked at the relationship to galactic center and different cultures and how they saw that. The Black Madonna at the galactic center. So that's that imagery. And Isis, again, you see her with her outstretched wings here. She was connected to that, representing the very womb of creation that gave birth to all the stars and planets in our galaxy, and to us as well. So
can we say literally then, because when I set out to do this summit, I was all about just all the awakening we see happening around the globe. But this is a literal galactic event that's taking place right now.
Yes. Wow. Yes, I know. It's so juicy. Okay, so this is just another view of the same thing that we just saw, but just so that you can see the sun on the cross at the December solstice. Now, in the northern hemisphere, when the sun reaches 0 Capricorn, this is where it happens to be right now. 1,000 years ago it was over here. In 1,000 years from now, it's going to be over here. So it's, it's moving 1 degree every 72 years. So the reason that we give this from at least 1962 to 2034 is that 1 degree movement. But literally, if we think of it moving into 1 degree and moving out of 1 degree, we could actually give it 144 years. So from 1926 to 2070 would be the 144-year window. So either way, we're in it, we're in the middle of it, and each December solstice, the sun is lighting up this part of the sky where the galactic womb is. So the sun is like the source of light and life for Earth. If we didn't have the sun, we wouldn't be here, in the way that it's positioned and so on. So that's what gives us this. But it also lets us know what time it is in terms of the greater cycles, because it takes 25,920 years for the sun to go all the way through all the constellations and come back to a starting point. And if we consider the galactic cross as a starting point, we're at that now. So this happened 25,920 years ago. We say 26,000 years because it's that close. Right? So that tells us that the December solstice is extremely important, because the sun is on the cross at a solstice. The solstices and equinoxes were major turning points of the season. The December solstice in the northern hemisphere literally is starting a new solar cycle. So we could say we're starting a new galactic year, a new 26,000-year cycle. And it's more than a day, and it's more than a year. It's more like at least 72 years or 144 years. So we're in this process. So basically, what we're dreaming into, what we're connecting into through our creative connection through our own womb, as the women with wombs, or if we only have an energetic womb because maybe our womb has been removed, but we still have that connection to the galactic womb, where there's this whole new vibrant energy coming in, this new earth energy coming in that we can tune into and work with. So exciting.
Yeah.
Another thing that's interesting, this isn't the best visual of the archer. It's more like an arrow pointing, and the arrow points right to galactic center. For some reason, this program didn't let me show you the arrow. And then the scorpion's tail and the top of the tail actually points right up to galactic center. So both of the constellations that are around this galactic alignment are pointing right to the center of the galaxy. Like, okay, I think that's a clue, right? Yes. Like, pay attention. This part of the galaxy is super important, right? And the December solstice right now is the time when the sun is illuminating all that, and that happens to be in the northern hemisphere the longest night and the shortest day, and then the return of the light begins after that. So we're at that time of the beginning to have the light return, and that the light is lighting up the womb, the cosmic womb. So, how cool is that? And we'll talk a little more about that in another version of this in a minute. So, any questions about any of that so far?
Oh, no, I'm right there with you.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check in because I get really excited, and sometimes it makes total sense to me, but am I explaining it well? I don't know.
You are. Anyway. You absolutely are.
So this imagery of the Egyptian goddess Nut, the sky goddess, I just love, from Francine Hart. And basically what she's showing is how the sun at sunset enters the mouth of the goddess, travels through her body, and then is birthed out of her womb every day. And this is Ra. This is the god Ra. Now Ra decided that he didn't want any competition, so no other babies could be born from Nut.
Okay.
In any days in ordinary time. So she's carrying Isis, Osiris, Nephthys, Set, and Horus in her womb, and she can't give birth to them, and it's kind of uncomfortable. So Thoth, the moon god, and interestingly, we often think of the moon as feminine and the sun as masculine. But in some cultures, the sun has been feminine and the moon has been masculine. And literally Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet, is a solar goddess. She wears the sun disk on her head. She's the daughter of Ra. So there's a solar feminine energy. And then Thoth was a moon god. And through some gambling thing he does, he winds up winning 5 days at a time so that Nut can give birth to her children. And what's interesting is it's 5 children, that 5-pointed star, the Venus star, we're going to look at a little bit more later, but just how this is connecting into the whole cosmic womb thing, and this whole idea that there's this divine feminine energy we often think of this, Father Sky and Mother Earth, but some cultures actually saw it as Father Earth and Mother Sky, or they had a masculine feminine way of looking at the sky as well. So definitely Nut is the feminine perspective from the Egyptians. Awesome. So does that all make sense? Awesome. All right, so this is going to lead us now to talking a little bit about the Venus cycle. So this is literally what you're seeing here is the pattern that Venus creates in the sky going around the Earth and the Sun. And it creates a 5-pointed star, pentagram, this 5-pointed star here. And you can see the 5 petals in the flower imagery. This is like tracking it for a long, long time. And one Venus cycle is 584 days, point something, and it's or 19 months. And so every 19 months, Venus rises as a morning star, and it does it 5 times in 8 years. So this connects us to the Fibonacci sequence, 5 Venus cycles every 8 years. 5 plus 8 is 13. 5, 8, 13 is part of the Fibonacci sequence. And Venus goes around the sun 13 times in 8 years. It's like the number magic is like off the charts amazing. And to the Egyptians and the Celts, the pentagram represented the underground womb where we're all reborn. And when we look at the Venus cycle a little more deeply, we'll see how that's really true. It's like, so cool. Anyway, but the pentagram has been demonized as well as celebrated in different cultures and different ways of looking at it. But I like to think of it as that connection to goddess, to protection, to magic, to the 5 elements. I mentioned the 4 elements in the invocation, but of course spirit is a 5th element, or if you're looking from a Chinese perspective, they have another way of looking at that 5th element. So what I want to do is just explain a little bit of the Venus cycle, and you can see I have the Venus, the pentagram behind me, the goddess, like, you know, connected to that. And literally the story that I'm about to tell you describes what happens to Venus in the sky over the 19 months. And so the Sumerians called the goddess Inanna, and the Babylonians called her Ishtar, and their stories are very similar. It's describing the actual movement of Venus through the sky. So Venus rises up as morning star and begins her initiation, descent into the underworld. That's what the Sumerians and Babylonians called it. And she would pass through 7 or 8 gates into the underworld, and literally in the morning sky, over a number of months, there's 7 or 8 moon conjunctions representing the 7 chakras, sometimes an 8th chakra, and the descent is, it's like what Inanna or Ishtar, they put from the great above, they put their ear to the great below, like they're listening to the great womb within, that womb wisdom that's saying it's time for your initiation, time to come and die to who it is you think you are, so you can be reborn to who you really are. So you have to come to this cosmic womb so that you go through this initiation and go through that process. So that's literally what's happening with the Venus cycle. And when Venus gets close to the sun, it'll be for about 2 to 3 months that it's close to the sun. And you remember the sun is telling us that it's with the galactic womb at the December solstice now. It's the sun that gives us the clues that, you know, it's time for something new to be birthed. And so Venus goes with the sun for 2 to 3 months, and then rises into the evening sky and begins her ascent to return back to heaven, but now reborn in a new way, having been in the cosmic womb, gone through the death and rebirth process, and is now emerging into the sky, and not same, still Inanna or still Ishtar or still the same goddess, but having gone through shamanic death and rebirth, like to be born to your true self.
So just for people that may be familiar with astrology at all, what is the significance of Venus to a woman, to a female?
Right, thank you. That's a great question. So from the perspective that I'm working with, the shamanic astrology paradigm, we see Venus as the emerging feminine identity of the current life. So it's the aspect of the feminine, or the aspect of the goddess, however, whatever language you like to use, that you have come to explore, to investigate, and to help evolve. Because of course, all these archetypes are in huge evolutionary process. And so there's at least 12 archetypes of the feminine. And we've lived in patriarchal culture so long that the ones that have been mostly supported are the ones of the mother, the caretaker, the partner, you know, the supportive one, that kind of thing. But there's actually very fierce expressions of the feminine, very sort of revolutionary out there expressions of the feminine. You know, there's a lot of different expressions of the feminine. And when we look at this, we see what sign Venus is in. That gives us a lot of clues. We see where she is in the story. Is she morning star, evening star, in the underworld? That gives us more clues to what is her story is about. And as we're going to see now, the meta goddess that was on the world stage at the time that you were born. And that gives us additional clues as to what your emerging feminine identity is. So it's not just looking at the 12 archetypes that are possible for Venus to be in. There's so much more to the story. And we call it the Venus signature. And it's so amazing to see the nuances and how, like, oh, I could kind of relate to what the sign my Venus was in, but when you add this other piece, now I really relate to it. Now I really get it, and I really resonate with that. Or that was the missing piece, you know, so that could be really helpful.
So it would be important, and I'm just saying this from a perspective of someone that doesn't have any familiarity with astrology, because I know there's a lot of folks out there that don't. When you look at an astrology chart, your whatever sign Venus was in when you were born can translate into the perspective your feminine energy has throughout this lifetime.
Right. So if we could say that's the primary feminine energy. So for example, I'm Venus in Aries. This is the expression of the feminine, that is the warrior, the one who's here to restore the cosmic balance, the one who's here to bring back cosmic order, so to speak, right? And it's like her mission, her purpose, she must have one. And how she accomplishes that, there's these other factors that can affect it, because I know other women with Venus and Aries that are very different in how they show up than I do, because they have different factors that are at play with that. So it's not just the sign it's in, there's other factors, but that the sign gives us the main clues.
Right.
Definitely the sign that Venus is in gives us the clues.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So Venus returns happen every 8 years, and this means then that the cycle of Venus you were born into repeats every 8 years. So if you're turning a multiple of 8 at a certain time, then it can be as early as right as the cycle is starting, or it can be as late as right as the cycle is finishing. So there's a 19-month window. So a lot of times there's that time frame. So here we're in the current cycle, started November 1st, 2018. And it started in a new sign. So it had been for 96 years in the sign of Scorpio. And the last time it was in Scorpio, rose in Scorpio, was in 2010. And now it's going to be rising in Libra for the next 104 years. So it's either 96 years, 104 years. It can be as much as 112 years. And then, so it's like how this pentagram forms in the sky. The next time Venus rises will be June 9th, 2020, as morning star in Gemini. And so if you were born between November 1st, 2018 and June 8th of 2020, and you're turning a multiple of 8 in that time, you're in a Venus return. Or if you were born between June 9th of 2020 and January 14th of 2022, you're going into a Venus return. So you can kind of see this and then from January 15th of 2020 to August 18th of 2023 is another Venus return, and then it'll come back. And so it's literally going to also shift when it gets back to the Aries point. It'll be actually in Pisces the next time. So basically that pentagram, those 5 points, are shifting backwards through the signs over 1,260 years. Every point of the pentagram is in every part of the sky, every possible expression it can possibly be. But there are only 5 meta goddesses on the world stage at any one given time. So the Leo one started in 1975. The Capricorn one started in 1974. We'll have Pisces start in 2025. We just had Libra start in 2018. And Gemini literally started in 1948 or 9. So those are the ones we have on the stage at this particular time. So again, if you're going through your Venus return, one of the things we highly recommend, and has been life-changing, and literally I did this for myself at my age 56 Venus return back in 2010 to 2012, where I worked ceremonially with every phase of the cycle. I kept a Venus journal, I had a Venus altar, it totally changed my life. And all of the things and practices that I did at that time have become what we do in Venus Alchemy when we lead people through the Venus cycle. Because sometimes it's hard to stay on track by yourself. So if you need help, we do a ceremonial journey and meet monthly and prepare people for each of the gates and working with the chakras and all of that. So it's pretty cool. And again, it's about and one of the big pieces that we do is I forgot to, I guess this was the slide I was going to just sort of minimize this down to the cycle we're in and to the cycle we're going into, and then the cycle that will be after that. So, but one of the chakra gates, of course, is the sacral chakra, the womb, where our womb is, right? You can see it's like right here in the womb. And this chakra really literally means dwelling place of the self. It's like, this is where we dwell, and we need to have a healthy relationship with that place. But of course, as in a patriarchal culture, that has been highly damaged, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But this is where we carry the cosmos within us in our sacral chakra. And it's where we also connect with our personal pleasure, our value and worth. This is known as the sex and money chakra. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. And it's the creative center where we birth our ideas into form. So literally, we don't have to necessarily have children to make the most use of our womb. And I'm sure other people have talked a lot about this already, but it's important, and it's important to have a healthy relationship with this chakra. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'm sure other people will be, but one of the things that I've worked with a lot in my priestess work, Kathy and I are in the same priestess lineage, and Nicole started bringing in this idea of the Madonna-Whore split, or the split between sexuality and spirituality, especially in the feminine psyche. And so we have the Madonna here. She's dressed in blue. She's in the clouds. She's sending out light. She's this pure, beautiful, radiant being. And then the Magdalene, who's the whore, and that's the story that's told about her. But actually, she was a high priestess, and her story got distorted. But anyway, but the whore is someone who has sex, so it's not spiritual. And the Madonna is someone who does not have sex. She has immaculate conception, so she's spiritual. So the spiritual aspect of the feminine, and only the upper chakras. And then the not spiritual, or the sexual aspect of the feminine, is only in the lower chakras, and they've been split, right? There's been that split in the psyche. So if you're sexual, you're not spiritual, and if you're spiritual, you're not sexual. And that has been a huge damaging effect, and it really, literally has affected the entire, our entire hologram of planet Earth, and being in this cosmos and all of that. So one of the things that we noticed when we were doing this work was that the second chakra, the sex and money chakra. So one day I was helping to facilitate a Magdalene circle, and the woman that I was co-facilitating with, she's like, let's just look up the word money. So we did. And we found that the root word of the word money is moneta. And Juno Moneta was the goddess of Rome, and the first money was minted in her temple.
Right.
So the money comes from the goddess. Whoa. And if we think about second chakra, it's about our wealth, it's our creativity, it's our value, it's our worth. And so so what happened was we got disconnected from that when we were disconnected from our lower chakras. When it's like, women, you're either going to be, the Madonna, or you're going to be the whore, right? You can't be both.
Right.
So what we've started to feel into is that, money, if money is a representative of life force energy, it's like a symbol of life force energy, and it's what flows, right? Money flows through our lives. Then that's what we need to energize, this moneta energy up through the chakras, to reconnect the lower chakras with the upper chakras, so that we have that flow. And part of that is working with our abundance. And interestingly, of course, in the priestess archetype, many of the stories are how the priestesses were they had to make money. They didn't have to support themselves. The community supported them. Then they were disbanded. And a lot of them wound up having to sell their bodies, because that was the only thing they had of any value that they could then somehow support themselves. So then, that whole, disregard for the sacred sexuality and feminine and all of that happened. And so we're still dealing with some of that. I mean, I've been working with this for almost 25 years, and I'm still feeling the effects of it myself. Like, So if we think of, again, this, like I put in the spiral of money here, because I thought it's like really showing how it's about the flow, and how when we can have that flow of connection to abundance, and not just money, because money is a representative of that, but it's that flow of life force energy through the chakra system. And how we measure our value and worth in our current culture is through money, but we can start to have a different sense of what that value and worth maybe is. It's not just money. So I thought what I would do is I created this little invocation to heal the split between sexuality and spirituality. So if everybody would like to just maybe even put your hands back on your womb, because of course this is that place where we're really wanting to energize a new way of relating to our value and worth and to our sexuality and our spirituality. And maybe if you want to close your eyes and feel into that, or read along with me, you can do that too. So, beloved Juno Moneta, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, glorious and powerful, you who remember the truly great divine feminine within, high priestesses, holy women, sacred consorts, mothers, healers, shamans, wise ones, expressing the genuine, authentic power of love, fueled by the light of passionate enthusiasm. Thank you for guiding me to release the wounds of separation that split the feminine psyche. Thank you for helping me to remember and cultivate the mighty and potent strength of my spiritual purity and creative sexual power. Thank you for helping me reclaim my body, my pleasure, my erotic divine truth, wisely and consciously sharing this with my beloved when I so choose. As I reclaim and live my human and divine nature, I restore sacred harmony, the truth of my being, first from within and then without. It is done, it is so, and so it is. Blessed be. So if this is something that resonates for you, you might want to say it many, like daily for a while, just to help to really anchor that sense of our sexuality and our spirituality as being part of this connection to the womb and to the cosmic womb. Because really, that sexual energy, without it, none of us would be here. You know, it's that union of the divine feminine and masculine that produces life. So any questions about anything so far?
No, this is beautiful.
Thank you.
Really is very enlightening, especially for people that may not be aware of how big this is. This isn't just a whim. This is, it's been divinely orchestrated for quite some time. So.
Right, I know. I just love that you're doing this, Kathy, so much, because literally this is kind of work that it was interesting when I first started doing priestess work back in the mid-90s, 1995. A lot of the women didn't want to use the P word, meaning they're afraid to say the word priestess because people would be like, what? Now, I mean, here we are 25 years later, and it's like everywhere, and everybody's using it, and so many books came out, all of the Dan Brown books came out, and all this information about Mary Magdalene and all the mistold stories, you know, and that she was actually married to Jesus, which I love this imagery here of the two of them together, side by side, working together. And that it's about restoring that balance between the masculine and feminine, that harmony between the masculine and feminine that has been so not present.
Right. For sure.
Yeah, and so we've been doing a lot of work, and there's a lot already in the energetic field, but there's still more to be done, clearly. So love that you're doing this. This is just amazing. So I'm still getting over a cough. Sorry. So the energizing the sacral chakra, and I love this imagery. It's like from the cosmic womb down into our bodies. So you can imagine, like, we can just bring that light right into who we are. And doing a morning practice, and literally what I'm sharing with you here are some things that I have done that have worked for me, but there's lots of practices, and you just need to find one that works for you, that enlivens you, that excites your passion, that gets you going, and that you want to do. And it's easy, and it's fun, and it feels like it works. So those are the criteria, right? So I talked to somebody who was doing some kind of practice recently, and she just said, I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, don't. Because if you're not feeling it, it doesn't matter. If you're doing it, you could do it perfectly, but you're not feeling it, it's not going to have the effect you want.
Well, and you've probably gotten to that level of attunement with that practice, and it's time to, change it up a little bit and do it a different one.
Yes, right. Sometimes we get bored. Like, okay, I think I've done that one. That one's pretty integrated. Now I need something different because it's time for something different. Yeah. So if you haven't done a morning body blessing, this is a really great practice to do. And again, placing your hands on your womb. And here's a picture of the womb, which I find very interesting, though. It looks like kind of a ram's head. Right. Yeah. And you can place your hands on your womb, and then before you even get out of bed, and I like this because especially in the winter when it's kind of chilly, I like to stay under the covers and then do this little practice and just shower your body with blessings of love, light, and gratitude for all the ways it supports you every day. And one of the things I like to do is include the systems of my body. So I just name all the ones I can think of. I often start with my skeletal system, my muscular system, my joint system, my tendon and ligament system, my organ system, my parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, my digestive system, my respiratory system, my circulatory system, my immune system, my hormonal system, my endocrine. I just go through all the systems I can think of. Mm-hmm. And I also will imagine it at a quantum level. So I look at the bosons, leptons, quarks, protons, neutrons, electrons, the cells of the body, the molecules, the cells, the mitochondria. I'll get down to that very quantum level and then bring it up into the more physical. And then I just ask that all these systems are working in harmony with each other, and that they're being blessed by this radiant light of love, this high vibrational energy of love and gratitude, that all these systems are working together. Mm-hmm. And then, to me, it's really about seeing our bodies as healthy and radiant and filled with light. So that's a great practice. And it's about, that's a gratitude practice really for how our bodies serve us in every moment of every day.
And so, I feel like something like that really brings us because in our world now, we live up here.
Yeah.
And so there's several other women that I've interviewed have suggested similar, but not the same. So I love how there's much diversity.
Right. So then people can look and see, oh, this one really resonates for me and I'll use that practice, or I can modify that one to really work for me, or this other one really resonates more and I can modify that to work for me. And what I forgot to put in here that I always say is my reproductive system. Right. Even though I'm way past having children. No more babies for me.
All of those practices bring us back to the body and back down to that second chakra space, because in truth, that's where the shift that we're looking for is going to happen.
So, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here, right? It's about being embodied. So, and the tendency has been, and I know this was partly my upbringing too, is to try to get up and out and away from all of this, but really it's about coming down and in. Involution, not evolution will happen, but we need the involution. We need to go inward as well. So really working with our systems of our bodies and honoring and just recognizing them, because it's one of the things I found about doing this practice is that I was like, wow, there's a lot of systems in my body. And I actually will also include my chakra system and some other things too. So yeah, just whatever you think of. It's a good thing. So the other piece we want to work with is abundance consciousness. And that isn't just money. I know a lot of times people think of abundance as that, but really it's about having a joyful, fulfilled life. That to me is experiencing abundance. And having the money that I need to do the things I need to do is part of that as well. And as if we think about how many of the priestesses struggled around the financial piece, and women really literally not being allowed to own property, not being allowed to be sovereign in their own way, that all being taken away from them. And the only thing they had left was their ability to have children. And that was the only value that was really left of the feminine for such a long time. It's crazy.
Right.
No?
Because all of those things, all these other things that you have listed on this list, they all live in second chakra. They all are there.
Right.
Start to clear and cleanse and activate that area. This is another benefit.
Exactly. So being complimentary to yourself and others, and forgiving of yourself and others, and having a vision for your life, super helpful, because how can you be creative without a vision? To have and one of my favorite things is to have a to-be list, because most people have a to-do list, but to have a to-be list, to be happy, to be radiant, to be healthy, to be strong, to be vital, to be alive, to be whatever, experiencing magic, whatever those things are that you want to be and have an experience in your life. And I'm, you know, being willing to embrace change and learning from our failures, because of course, everybody who's ever been successful with anything has failed along the way.
Right.
I know you probably, Kathy, have had those experiences, and I certainly have had those experiences. But also for me, it's also about love and happiness, not just like being super successful at your work. That can be fun and great too, not to say that's not, but it's not just that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people get so focused on that, that's all they're worried about, and they're not having fun along the way. Right. So, you know, sharing information, talking about ideas, it's like it's like, how do we support one another? How do we uplift one another? How do we do this together and joyously celebrate our own personal accomplishments, but also others, being delighted when they succeed too, and crediting others for their work and their ideas and their successes. The love, joy, fun, play, freedom, and fulfillment are expressions of abundance. Woohoo! Mm-hmm. And then the sacred geometry and abundance. And literally, I just threw that in kind of at the last minute, but I was reading in this book that's talking about the shift, and it was saying how we can imagine our bodies as a octahedron, like a toroid that is constantly generating this energy, high vibrational energy field. But literally I think of it from the womb all the way up and around and down into the earth and up and out into the cosmos and down into the earth, and that we can imagine that is happening, and that puts us into that more abundant flow of the universe.
Right.
Yeah. And to me, the abundance of love. That's really what I want to experience more than anything.
Well, and into the cosmic womb will give you that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And feeling safe and feeling supported and feeling valued and feeling that who we are and how we show up has value and worth just because we showed up, not because of what we're doing. Right. And that's another piece of that as well. And so that's part of what we together as women can support each other around. So, and I also just wanted to say a little bit more about a gratitude ceremony, because this was something Nicole Christine spoke about all the time, is how we have to be in gratitude, because that's a high vibration. Mm-hmm. It's a high vibrational state. And it increases our self-worth, and it increases our energy field, and then we attract more to us based on whatever our energy field is vibrating at. So I like to suggest that people create a gratitude list and perhaps practice it every day. Like if you've written it down, you don't even have to think, you just read it. Right? And take some time in creating it and really putting the things you're deeply, profoundly grateful for. Mm-hmm. Read it every day for a month or longer. I've done it for much longer periods. And sometimes I've read it enough that I've memorized it enough, I can just think of it and I don't have to read it. Mm-hmm. And that it really helps to strengthen your field of gratitude that's around you, which means it'll attract more to you, that more of that abundance to you. Also, advanced gratitude. One of my favorite things, I learned about this back in the 90s when I was reading in the Sacred Path Cards by Jamie Sams, and she talked about the field of plenty. And one of the things they did in their tribes was they would give advanced gratitude for the things that they wanted to come into their life. And then I read about it again in a book called Mutant Message Down Under by Marlo Morgan. And she was with an Aboriginal tribe in Australia out in the outback for several months. And literally every morning they got up and they prayed through song and whatever they did, but they would ask for what they needed, that their needs of the day would be fulfilled, that the food and water and whatever intentions they were holding for that day would be fulfilled. So they requested that those needs would be filled, and they requested it as if it was already done, like it was already had happened. And then they would expect that it would happen, and then they would accept what showed up with gratitude. And I was like, oh, that's so good. It's so good. So the important thing is that you want to state what you want, not what you don't want. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, I'm grateful for radiant health, wealth, and well-being, or whatever, it's better to say it in that way rather than to say, I'm grateful for being disease-free. You don't want to even mention the word disease. Like, you don't even want to energize that word at all, or that I'm I'm grateful I'm not poor. It's better to say I'm grateful that I'm wealthy.
Right.
So stating it in the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, one of the things I did with my husband Peter when we first got together was we created a gratitude list and we read it every day, and we take turns reading each one, and we had like 100 things on our list, so it took a little while.
Cool.
But it was so good. It really set a field for our relationship, and we've been married 13 years now, and it's better than ever. So I highly recommend if there's somebody that you can do this with, because it will just increase the potency of your gratitude.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then this is just an example of the gratitude list that we created. I tried to make it more of a from an I perspective, but you state your name. So I, Kaylin K. Castell, am deeply and profoundly grateful for, and then you list your bullet points of what it is you're grateful for. All the abundance I experience, including love, joy, fun, and financial ease, with joyous, fulfilling relationships and experiences every day. That was a little longer. For my happy, healthy body that supports me in all I am and all I'm here to do. For my endless ability to restore, regenerate, and renew each and every day. For magic and synchronicity, for angelic protection, for money flowing freely and continuously into my life, my bank accounts, my investments, getting to joyously share my abundant wealth in ways that are inspiring for me, and my ever-renewing financial flow, prosperously growing with ease and joy. And there were other things like we did stuff around our relationship, like, places we got to travel together, and it's just, there's so many different ways you can do it, and literally there was 100 things. So this was just very pared down, and mostly I targeted these for around abundance and financial flow, because most of us need that.
Right.
And then if you don't want to do it in that way, you can also just say, I'm deeply grateful to know I am a divine expression and the vast sea of wisdom that lives within and around me. Or I'm grateful I now experience complete ease and peace as I attract an abundance of love, joy, and joy into every aspect of my life. So there's lots of different ways you can create these statements. Just find what works for you, feels most alive and most resonant for you. So I imagine you've done stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
So good. So good.
Second chakra, womb awakening practice.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And being grateful for our womb, or if we don't have a womb, being grateful for the space in our body where the womb, energetic womb, still exists. Just loving that part of ourselves.
Came in with a female body this time. I have been some instinctual, I don't know, but I have always, from the moment I set foot on the planet this time, I was glad I was a girl. Even when it wasn't popular, it was just like, I am so glad. Now I understand why, but wow.
Yeah, I didn't start out that way. I wanted to be a boy. I think the boys have more fun.
Well, they did.
But now, they did. But now I feel like in my women's circles, I am so glad I'm a girl, but it took me a long time to get to that place where it's like, this is the best. Being a girl, I love it. Yeah. So yeah, we're very fortunate to be this way. So I want to just kind of bring this back around to the cosmic womb and the astronomy versus astrology. There was a split that happened in astronomy and astrology. And interestingly, because I mentioned all the ancient cultures that they built their standing stone circles and pyramids and petroglyph sites and all those places where they were tracking that magical link between the earth and the sky, the seasons, the moon phases. Sometimes they were tracking the 19-year moon cycle. Sometimes they were tracking the Venus cycle. Sometimes they were tracking, the seasonal shifts and different things that were going on. So they were really tuned in. So astronomy and astrology were one and the same. Mm-hmm. And what happened was that the two got split apart, and basically astrology got deemed as evil. And the reason this happened is because when people are connected to what's happening in the great above and how it's influencing the great below, and how we as participants here can also inform the mysteries. We can be informed by them, and we can also inform them in that living relationship. It's harder to control them. Right. So if you make astrology evil, if you make it bad, mm-hmm. then it doesn't, it's like people won't go there. They're afraid to get burned at the stake or whatever's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's once upon a time, there was no difference between astronomy and astrology. Astronomers really have a hard time with this astrological perspective, and they think the astrologers don't really know what they're talking about. Astrologers sometimes have problems with astronomers because the astronomers don't really know what they're talking about either. And they don't get the difference between the signs and constellations and, you know, the movement and the precession and all of these different things that are going on. So what our opportunity is to remember and to be re-empowered with this information, to reconnect with that cosmic womb space where it's all these downloads are coming from, knowing how to bring this all back together, to become more, again, familiar with the night sky. And, you know, what constellations are we looking at? What planets are we seeing? Ancient people knew this. They knew how the cycles worked and how these things happened. And they had a sense of what was the intent when they could see certain planets coming together, gathering together in the sky. They knew the intent. And then they could align their intent with that intent. And they could do ceremony and intention and magic and all those things that we no longer really are as connected to. It's coming back. I really do feel like it's coming back, but there is so much more that is, you know, I mean, people work with the moon phases and they work with the seasons, and that's a fabulous start. And there's more. Just, you know, just like what I shared about the Venus cycle, there's so much more that we can work with that can super empower our lives and our ability to feel like we are co-creators, co-participants in this great unfolding that's happening at this great turning of an age, because we are the seed people. We are the ones who are envisioning the next 26,000 years and where that's going to go. And it's a huge responsibility, but it's also something we can have a lot of fun with. So, so healing the split between astronomy and astrology is part of healing. I think also maybe healing the split between sexuality and spirituality, right? Yeah. So it's sort of a similar energetic in a way. So anyway, that, and I'm done basically with what I have to share. But if people want to know more, they can go to celestialtimings.com, KaylinCastell.com. I've got lots of articles there. I've got a whole video on the Venus cycle and what's happening this year in 2020, which is really amazing. It's like 10-minute video, maybe 12, I forget.
You mentioned earlier that you were gonna, part of your free gift was gonna be some videos that have more information.
Yeah, I will provide some, yeah, maybe I will just provide a video on the Venus, the whole Venus cycle that Tammy and I did, and that people usually get when they sign up for our class. I'll offer that. That sounds like a good idea, because that way people can get a better sense of the Venus cycle. And it is a video and it's got lots of great visuals.
Kaylin, I am so happy that you joined us and that you brought all of this plethora of information that'll take us all a little bit of time to really sink into. If you were to give a parting message to women that were watching this about empowerment, like what they could do to empower themselves to connect with the cosmic womb, what would you say?
That is a really great question. And I would say start spending some time under the sky, especially with when there are certain planetary alignments that are happening. Venus is brilliant in the evening sky right now. By June, it'll be in the morning sky, but you cannot miss Venus. She is a spotlight. The moon, of course, is easy to track. So starting to spend some time opening to receive the messages that are, because they're sending light codes constantly to us. We just need to open to receive them. And that can be so empowering. And the thing is that we can't change anything without taking action. So we can change our beliefs or feeling, we can have a feeling that we're changing our beliefs, but unless we're taking actions that change, that support that change, it's not going to change.
Right.
Really, just not. So doing any of these practices, attuning to, paying attention to moon phases and seasons, it's a great place to start. Going out and seeing what's happening in the sky, starting to recognize some constellations, and when planets are moving through certain constellations, that's really exciting to do, and just a little bit at a time. And here's the other thing I just want to say is that I've watched this for people. It's like they can hear it the first time and they maybe get a piece of it. but then they have to hear it again, and then they need to hear it again, and then they probably need to hear it a few more times after that. And I've had to hear it a lot of times, and every time I even speak about it, I get new insights and new excitement and new sort of sense of what's going on. So it's continually unfolding. It's not like you just get there and like, okay, now I know it all.
Right. Fun. I think that's part of the beauty of the divine feminine is you're never finished. There's always another layer. There's always something more to learn. Once again, I just want to thank you so much for bringing us this information. And anyone that wants to know more, Kaylin gave her website, and of course that will all be listed on the main website of this program. And I know that, Kaylin, don't you offer what the timings? Aren't those available?
Yeah, I do a free monthly newsletter. Some months are more elaborate than others, depending on my time, how much time I have, but just about what's going on in the sky with sky maps often, so you can go out and go, oh, that's what I'm looking at. Right. The sky maps can be really helpful to get a sense of how to start tuning into that. So people can go to my website and sign up. It's free.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kaylin. This has been a joy and a privilege. And we look forward to learning more from you.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to share what I am so passionate about, and I just love these mysteries so much, and I love to get to share them. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Very welcome.